2 is a sequel to Inside Out and the newest movie in this Disney and Pixar film collection. This movie takes place, I believe, about a year after the events of Inside Out. Riley is now 13 years old. The big storyline with her is, she's now getting older, she's starting to hit puberty, and she's going through some changes, not necessarily just with her body necessarily, but more so in life. Big change with her, she's been given this opportunity to join this really good hockey team, which is causing her to gravitate towards a different group of people, trying to make new friends, causing her to maybe forget about some older friends that she has, which leads to the emotions that we know in her head: anger, joy, fear, disgust, and sadness, all trying to figure out how to benefit her to make this new experience work well with her life, while some new emotions join the picture and they start taking over everything, which, according to the trailer you've seen, the new emotions led by anxiety, they basically take over everything with Riley. They're causing her to take her life into a new direction, and now the emotions that we know are trying to reestablish control and get Riley back on track. It's been a minute since we got the first Inside Out. I believe that was 9 years ago that we got that movie. I absolutely love Inside Out. I think it's one of the best animations we've ever gotten. I absolutely love it. It's one of the most genius concepts for a movie I've ever seen. That's saying something for Disney and Pixar. But it was also it was really funny, and it was unique, and it was moving. It's one of those movies that you never stop thinking about after you see it for the first time. It's just great. I think it was also the second movie I ever did a review for on my channel, which means I've been doing YouTube for 9 years now. I'm not okay. Point is, Inside Out was a big success, and there was always potential that there was going to be a sequel. It was something that people were talking about for a long time, and I'll be the first to admit, when a sequel was announced for Inside Out, I wasn't really looking forward to it. For a few reasons. One, the track record with sequels typically isn't very good. You're not as often going to find a sequel that's as good as the original or even better than the original. And more so than that, though, the track record, and I made a video about this, some time ago, the track record lately for Disney has not been very inspiring. It's hard for me to remember the last movie that Disney put out on their own. They made from scratch. They had this idea. They made it, and it was great. So yeah, if I'm being honest, I kind of just went into this movie with, very little hope, very little expectations, but decided to see what they would bring us. And you know what? I gotta give credit where credit's due, people. I'm here to say that this is by far and away the best thing Disney has given us in a very long time. Certainly when it comes to animation. I actually loved Inside Out 2. Something that Inside Out 2 does that springboards off of the first Inside Out is it's showing how our emotions and our memories are connected. Why certain memories can make you feel happy and then make you feel sad, and in some ways make you feel both things at once or multiple emotions at once. And what they do in this one that kind of expands off of that is it shows how you get older, you become more developed of a human being. Like certain memories or things that developed you into having the personality that you have and the hobbies that you have. That's maybe still there, but it's maybe expanded, it's maybe changed. Maybe you had a phase and then you didn't have the phase, or you had an interest and now you didn't have really an interest in it. Or maybe now that you're at the age that you are, it expands more on how you're feeling a type of way. And what they do in this one that I really, really appreciate is as you get older, you understand yourself more as a person. The values that you hold true to yourself, the belief system that you have, or the goals that you aspire to. There is a difference between being a kid and then being a teenager, and that's what Riley's going through here, and we see that in her mind, and I appreciate that. Because this movie could have very easily just gone and did the same story again. It would have felt redundant and stale. They didn't do that. Yeah, once again, we have the emotions going on this little journey for themselves, but it's not like they're revisiting the same areas that sadness and joy experienced in Inside Out. We see a lot more of Riley's mind. They do such an amazing job and portray in a really smart way just how the inside of our mind can feel like an entire world. Once again, you see the genius in Pixar that I feel has been lacking for quite a few movies now, and it's great to see it here again. And yeah, the characters of this movie, the emotions, they're all great once again. I know a couple of them have new voice actors here and there, but none of them felt like, oh, that's different from the first movie, so it doesn't feel like that emotion anymore. Still felt like they honed into the emotions that they were playing, and that's good. But also, yeah, we'll touch on the new emotions. Namely, I'm gonna touch on Maya Hawke as anxiety. Like, she was called a standout before the movie, and she absolutely is one. Because we get other new emotions. You get envy, embarrassment, ennui, which just means boredom. But anxiety is easily the big one here. She's the one who's in the forefront. She's essentially the emotion that kind of takes over everything. I thought Maya Hawke's voice acting for her was excellent. She sounded like nervous or on edge or just really forward thinking. It was a great portrayal of what anxiety is like, and I love seeing in her ultimately what anxiety does to us. Because my fear with anxiety going into this movie is it kind of just made me think, all right, is anxiety just basically fear, essentially? I mean, is anxiety really a new emotion in itself? But no, the movie does a really good job at showing what are the differences between anxiety and fear. They even make a little joke about it. You know, fear, I think, says something like when she shows up, it's like, you and I are gonna be friends. And I did find that funny because the movie is acknowledging it's like, yeah, anxiety and fear are similar, but they're not the same. And I do think anxiety was the perfect emotion to introduce into this movie because really, when you get older, that's when you start to experience more of anxiety because you develop more of a fear of the future. You know, whether it could be a job interview or trying out for a sport or a test coming up, you have a fear over what could happen. That is ultimately what anxiety is, and it's a great portrayal of anxiety in this movie. And even in some ways, anxiety, I think, is meant to feel a little bit like the antagonist of this movie. I mean, she comes in, she kind of takes over everything, like the way she's, you know, controlling Riley's mind or emotions, really, or just the way she's triggering her ultimately. It's making her do some things that kind of abandon who she is, makes her make some hasty decisions out of the nerves that she's experiencing. Even has the perfect portrayal of what a panic attack is in this movie, and I give the movie respect for that 100%. But what I appreciate with anxiety is she never felt like a villain. She never felt like a bad guy necessarily. She just felt like an emotion that's trying to do what's right and is maybe going about it the way she feels is the right way to do it, but you are seeing how it's affecting Riley. Yeah, you know, it was a character addition I wasn't so sure about going into the movie, but it ended up being a great character. And also, yeah, is the movie hilarious? Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, it touches on Riley growing up and how she's changing as a human being. I mean, they do one little bit on puberty, how, you know, she may be like wildly exuberates some kind of emotion, and the emotions in her mind are like, I barely touch the control center, I don't know what's going on. I thought that was hilarious because, yeah, it's like at certain stages you just like unleash some kind of emotion and it may be completely like unwarranted for whatever reason. But it's not even just that. This movie does what we love Pixar for, and it brings out the laughs when it really needs to bring out the laughs, but it brings out the heart when it really needs the heart. Like the moments when Riley's just completely overwhelmed, or the moments where she's making decisions that are hurting herself or hurting others. It makes you feel such a type of way, not just because it's emotionally effective, but because it's relatable. Like, we've had moments where we felt overwhelmed with any kind of emotion, and it maybe caused us to do something that we regret in life. And again, that's the element of Disney and Pixar that really shows the genius that is always in these movies, or at least the kind that you hope to be in these movies. And as a result, it does feel a lot like how the first Inside Out felt. That it's a movie that, while it is family friendly, is maybe geared towards the older audience a little bit. And I saw this movie opening night and a lot of families were there, adults with their young kids, and I did always feel like the young kids were enjoying the movie, but I do feel like it is the adults. It was the older audience that was getting the most out of it because we understand emotions more, we understand life more, we understand why we feel the way we feel or why we are the way we are as people. And this movie just really does a brilliant job at showing how we become what we become as people, or why we feel the way we feel, and why even at certain ages, as we get older, we experience different emotions that maybe we didn't feel as much when we were younger. As far as flaws with the movie go, I don't have a whole lot to list. I will say there are some moments with the emotions where they kind of portray themselves as opposite to what they are. Like, there's a moment in here where joy kind of freaks out and snaps on the other emotions. There's like a moment where anger is kind of being consoling and being nice. To me, that felt a little bit different. I mean, that's obviously like kind of the opposite of what the emotions are necessarily, but I guess you can throw that into it. It's like, you know, oh, sometimes when we want to be happy so much, it makes us feel angry, or sometimes like if we're angry enough, maybe it makes you take a step back and it makes you reflect on how you were. I don't know, that's kind of the deeper way I'm trying to take away from it. But nevertheless, it did throw me off a little bit. Also, as far as the other new emotions go, ennui, and again, this is just a me thing, but I feel like the emotion ennui didn't really do much in this movie. It kind of made me wonder, like, what was the point of ennui being here? But granted, you know, the emotion that ennui represents is boredom. So, you know, when, you know, she's just chilling on the couch and just, like, doing everything on her iPhone, even the control center, I thought that was clever. So yeah, alright, she wasn't a character that didn't really do much, but, you know, her character's not supposed to do much because it's boredom. Alright, I'm detracting that flaw. So all in all, Inside Out 2, I thought it was a great sequel to Inside Out. I love seeing all the old emotions back in the play. I love seeing the new emotions that were brought into it, especially anxiety. I thought was a great new addition for this story, for where Riley's mentality is at. I love seeing Riley again in this movie. The movie makes her feel like her own character and not like she's just some vessel for the emotions. It's beautifully animated. I love how they make the mind look more like an entire world. Seriously, they have some ideas that they throw in for like when your mind functions a certain way or does certain things. Again, it was genius. The movie is really funny when it needs to be funny. It's incredibly touching and moving when it needed to be that. It once again takes a genius concept and rather than making it redundant, expands more on it as well. It shows how the mind continues to develop and expand more as you get older. And in the end, I really think if Disney plays their cards right here, Inside Out could kind of become the next sort of Toy Story franchise within Pixar's film collection. You know, Toy Story is like we would get a sequel for them every like 7, 8, 9, 10 years even. And each sequel like felt like it was still catering to the audience that grew up to it, but also found a way to cater to a younger audience as well. Like every Toy Story movie that we have gotten, you kind of feel like they grow up with us. It kind of then caters to an older audience a little bit more. It touches more on life as we get older and everything that goes with it. And that's why it's felt like the Toy Story franchise has been able to keep going. That's why we're potentially getting a 5th one. And no one's really necessarily upset about it because there are more places that you trust Toy Story could go. Inside Out, I feel like could do that exact same thing. I feel like maybe in another 9 years, we could see Riley's character again as a high school student or a college student or even like a woman with kids or something like that. And then another 10 years down the line, we could see Riley again, older, and I don't know, like maybe as an old lady, she has like dementia or Alzheimer's, and they could make a movie that just emotionally just destroys everybody. Like I really am intrigued to see where else they could go with this Inside Out franchise. And that's the first time I've been excited for that in a very long time in a Pixar series of movies. This is without question the best thing Disney's put out in a very long time. It's the best Disney Pixar movie we've gotten since Soul, and I think it's one of the best Disney Pixar sequels we've ever gotten. I loved it. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.